Joining us now here at In the Circle, D1 Softball powered by 643 as we talk a little UAB softball. And of course, she is in her second year as the head coach at UAB. Of course, was a standout player at Troy, one of the best defensive players in Troy softball history, one of the best defensive coaches in college softball. I speak of Taylor Smartt joining us here at In the Circle on D1 Softball. Good to have you back. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. We had you on when you got the job at UAB. So now a year in, as you enter your second year, what did you learn from year one in the chair there as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously are faced with just different obstacles and different challenges, but it was a lot of fun. I think I learned the most is just managing multiple people, which obviously you do that in different assistant roles, but as the head coach, you have to then decide like to delegate more things and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just easier if when I was assistant, I just do it. So figuring out what I should and shouldn't do, or like what I need to delegate, and kind of going from there. But also just knowing that in the day when you put your head on the pillow, you made the decision, so you just go with it. If it's good or bad, it's no one's fault but your own. And so that was something that honestly is like, okay, well, at the end of the day, if it wasn't what you wanted, you did it yourself. So it's one of those, it just is what it is. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The good and the bad, it teaches you a lot, teaches you a lot about resilience and, how you want to lead people is the main thing that I think that I continue to, want to continue to get better at through this because obviously as a coach, like you still want to learn and grow as well. And so that's something that at the end of the year, how can I be better for the team? How can I help in different ways? And what can I do to better myself so that I can be better leading this program?
Yeah, it's a little different when you offer advice and suggestions versus you got to make the decision yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes I won't lie, I give myself too many options, and then I have like a pros and cons list of like seven things instead of just going with like the one or the two. So it's like not trying to make it too fancy, just is what it is. Here are two options, make the decision. Versus trying to come up with all the ideas, and then because when you're an assistant, you're more giving ideas, and then you can provide all these ideas, and then they can make a decision. At some point, when you become the head coach, it's like the more ideas you give, the more ideas you have to decide through and sift through and decide which one's best. So trying to keep it simple and decide which ones makes the most sense, which one is the probably easiest way to get into action quickly, and to get what you want versus trying to figure out like an intense, like extensive plan, sometimes. So.
So let's talk about your style now as you enter your second year, as well as working with your staff as you built that your staff. How does it work? Do you delegate a lot? Are you more hands on? Tell me about the responsibilities and the assignments and kind of your style of coaching now as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, being a head coach, like we're servant leaders and we're serving everyone around us. So it's not like I ever am too good to do anything. A lot of times I like to do things and to help be a part, but there's just sometimes like you can't do all the things at once. So you have to delegate certain things. There's people that like are in charge of like travel and different people in charge of food and like one of my assistants in charge of like receipts, like all of those things. We figured out that part of it. Just so there's like different people and different checkpoints along the way. But as far as like ball, like I like being hands-on and at the field. I would really struggle if I had to just be in a 9 to 5 in the office and the head coach just delegated everything and didn't show up. So definitely still heavily involved at practice.
It's pretty good there. Let's talk about this team this year in the fall. What have you learned about this group in the fall?
Yeah, they like to have a lot of fun. They're competitive, and they're a great group to be around. I think they want to be great, and they continue to push themselves more and more. And we had 8 newcomers, freshmen, and then transfer. So we returned 17, and so they obviously had an idea what they were getting into with me. And so like our staff, so like when we do different challenges or like we throw random things at them, they aren't as phased by them as they might have been last year just because it was a lot more unknown. But I tell them all the time that the better they are with the unknown, the better they're going to handle the chaos and whatever the game throws at them, in life in that sense. And so they've gotten a lot better at that. And knowing that like, okay, this may seem like a challenge, but like I'm ready to attack this challenge head on versus being more nervous for a challenge. Where last year I think it was like, oh, what could she come up with now? And like already being on their heels with that because they just didn't know. And so just continuing to do that. And Perk is a great one that joined us that kind of just attacks things that's in front of her and isn't phased and is a great leader and is will say what needs to be said. And I think in today's world, and in a lot of teams, a lot of people are scared to be honest and tell the truth and say what, probably needs to be said. And I think that she does that. And so I'm very thankful that she chose to be a Blazer and excited to see her play this spring.
Yeah, you're speaking of Abby Perkins, of course, the catcher coming over from Jacksonville State, one of the four transfers joining you there. Let's talk about the newcomers first, then, with Abby leading the way. Talk about the transfers and the freshmen and the impacts they're going to have on your team, and some of the names that will be Blazer fans will get to know.
Yeah, I mean, we have four freshmen, Charlie Bennett, Madeline Flama, I might say her name wrong. I call her Flame. Zaylin Tucker and Olivia Tyndall. And they had a great little fall. They've transitioned well. They all four were in the Bolts organization and prepared, and that is something when you're making that transition, right into the fall. Obviously, there was times this fall that things probably got a little overwhelming just because it's their first fall, but they handled it very well. I'm excited to see them compete. We got in that Charlie and Flame are both infielders, and then Olivia and Zaylin are outfielders. Zaylin also pitches a little bit, and so we have a little bit of options there. And like I said, they transitioned pretty well. It was one of the times when Dorsett and Charlie were both up the middle. Dorsett was at short, Charlie was playing second. I guess they had played together 4 or 5 years ago. So it's kind of neat that they've kind of at least known each other because they were in the Bolts organization. So excited for the freshmen, and then transfer wise. JC Holt, really fast outfielder. She comes in. She's really quiet, but she is mighty, and she gets it done. Competitive, that's for sure. Ainsley Eason, elite defender, and just trying to figure out what makes our infield best. She loves ball, and there's no doubt about that. And then Kaylin Curo, she was transfer from she was at Binghamton and then Division 2. I don't know exactly where. Up north. I know she's from New York. That's what I know. And she is honestly I love the fact her personality. She's great. She is kind of silly, goofy, but she is competitive and she's from the north. And I think honestly, with our team, that was different. And so she brings things that they maybe is new to them and stuff. And I loved her just kind of getting to know all of them. She loves ball too, and her dad's a coach, so she kind of gets it. But she's an infielder, lefty, power, triple threat. And so, just kind of figuring out what works best together. That's the part that's been, through this fall is figuring out, it's not always the best nine, it's the nine best that play together. And so just figuring out what team can produce the most offense or what nine produce the most offense, but also can play defense, etc. So that's been the part that, as we've gone through it, I know both Abby and Hannah Dorsett or Perk and Hannah Dorsett both mentioned, you could put anyone out there. It's because we have had more options at different positions, and ability to Hannah could play short, she could play second, doing all the things, versus just she was going to play short last year no matter what. And so that's something that has been fun. It obviously makes it a little more challenging because you got to figure out which one's best and you want to make sure they get practice at all of them so you don't want them to feel unprepared. But we just finished our Fall World Series last night, and it was a very competitive series, and that was the fun part about it was because also I made them make the lineups for each one, that their team captain, and seeing where some of them put themselves and stuff. I enjoyed seeing that because, like I said, gives you kind of a glimpse of where they're confident and where they're having success, and seeing them compete is always a lot of fun.
That's pretty good. Of course, it sounds like you've liked the versatility of this roster. You've got the depth, you have the experience with 17 returning. From a defensive standpoint, you mentioned it. You have more versatility now defensively. Talk about that because we always talk offense, pitching, but I know I like talking defense with you. I know you love defense. Why is versatility so important in defense? That's something that maybe the casual fan may not think of, but I know that's something that you feel it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, that also just helps with the offensive lineup too, is because you can move people around and figure out which ones are producing at that moment, but also knowing they're confident in that space, to, get outs. And at the end of the day, we're going to be a pitching staff that pitches to our defense, and we're going to make plays behind them. And so putting people in places where the ball is going to go and they're going to make the play, those are the things that are important. And I mean, Dorsett played a little bit of shortstop and second base her freshman year because Volbeck would pitch and she played shortstop then, and Volbeck was a senior shortstop. And then last year she played shortstop every game. And so, this year, if Easton's playing well, she could play shortstop and Dorsett would play second. And there, Charlie Bennett, she's in the mix too. Like they definitely just have options. And I think that that's what's fun about it. And it also pushes everyone to want to be better because the person next to them is competitive at that position and knows they could go play somewhere else, whatever else we needed. So that's what I have enjoyed that. And the main thing that, as the coach and the person overseeing that, is I just want to make sure they feel like they've got enough reps that they feel confident in that space. And so, if they didn't feel that space, a lot of them asked for extra because they were going to a position they hadn't played maybe in since last summer. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So that's the part that you just wanted to make sure they feel prepared, but figuring out what works and what's best. I mean, I think it's always funny to see your first lineup of the year and see your last lineup of the year. And so I'll be definitely intrigued to see how ours starts and then how it could end because you just never know what the season's gonna throw at you.
How close are you defensively where you want to be? You have high standards. You and I have talked about it. You've coached among the best defensive teams statistically in the country during your career. So I know your bar is super high. That being said, how close are you to where you want to be defensively with this
So
program?
we've definitely grown in that sense. And obviously you wanted to keep growing and growing. And I think the part that just continues that when I had my most elite defenses, the people around understood the game and understood like why you were in certain defenses with certain hitters and counts and different games. Like if you're in the seventh, you may play one situation completely different than the first, and like truly understanding that. And so like fielding balls, well, defense is catching and throwing, I'll say, but just fielding the ball and throwing to one isn't. That's not, in my opinion, that's not hard. That's the easy thing. It's understanding, the time of the inning, the score, all of that going into it. And so this year it's even better because they've been around me long enough so they understand like my thought process behind it, why I think it's important to do this or that, or why I would put them in that defense, which the more they understand and they can apply it themselves, the more that they truly do understand and get it, which means they're gonna be able to apply it and be able to think for themselves. And at the end of the day, it's all the time like we give you a toolbox of tools, and you can figure out what tool works. But a flathead still could unscrew a Phillips head. Is it ideal? No. But like you have multiple tools in your toolbox to pull out and use whichever one you may need. And just because Perk may do it one way, Antonia, one of our other catchers, she may do it a different way, and that's okay. An out is an out. It doesn't have to be like the exact same way every single time. And so it's, being confident in that space to make that decision and trust their gut. And so we have definitely grown in that sense and getting closer to my obviously expectation. And I'm excited to see, it all kind of play out.
I never heard that comparison before. I like that. That's pretty good. On that, so many returners. Year two, I would imagine they're more comfortable. They know you better. You know them better and everything. But which players has stood out as taking it to the next level you've seen this fall?
I mean, I would definitely say that, Antonia behind the plate is definitely going to need to grow receiving wise and ability to catch and throw. And her and Perk have really been able to feed off each other and have a great relationship. And they know a two catcher system obviously helps a lot. And if you're hitting, you can always be a DP. And so seeing their relationship grow, I've been really proud of too, because it's like, okay. Um, and then Hannah Miles, I mean, Hannah Miles she had a really good year for us, and her just continuing to grow and have that success, because got really confident. I mean, before last year, she had one extra base hit. Last year, she had 19. And so just seeing her, grow with the bat and being even more confident, that's been really fun to watch her.
So let's talk about the offense. Hannah Dorsett obviously sets the tone, hitting 325 last year, 16 steals. You mentioned Hannah Miles. You got Ashlyn. Just talk about this offense and the identity and some of the standouts for this team that'll lead your offense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you said Hannah Dorsett. She's had multiple years. I mean, she can do a little bit of everything, and she just finds a way. Hannah Miles, like I said, she had an amazing year last year. I'm excited to see her continue that success. I mean, she is really, really athletic, and so just continuing to put her in positions to let her athleticism play. And she can run well and all the things. And so she had a good little fall and has continued to grow. Shira, she's just a competitor. She is smiles all the time. I call her Smiley. She smiles all the time. And she is really smart, and she's continuing to, excel on the ball field, but, just continuing to push others around her. She's definitely had a good year, like a good fall. Hope Tucker. She had some success last year, and she is a gritty player, and it doesn't always have to be pretty, and she'll find a way to, move a runner, score somebody. She likes the pressure on. She's honestly probably better in that sense, and so seeing her continue to grow has been a lot of fun.
You return a lot of experience pitching. All five pitchers that pitched last year returned. That's a rarity in today's day and age. Just talk about the pitching staff and what you've seen there from them and what you expect.
Yeah, they've definitely grown. I think that's the thing is growth and seeing that continuing to get. I mean, last year we returned around 150 innings that had pitched because they had graduated so much. So a lot of them just had to get thrown into the fire. And so, you know, Caroline McClendon, she threw 3 innings the year before, so she threw like 130. So, having that experience of just getting out there and having to be the one that has to go and throw. Tate Davidson being a freshman, getting, around 110 innings as a freshman is really good, and having to learn through the good and the bad. Sometimes you have to stay out there when you don't want, you may not feel great, but you're the best one in that option. Olivia Cummings, OC is continued to grow and be more confident and knowing of where she's going to put it. Caitlin Russell, she had a really good fall. She's gotten more confident, and I think that's a fun piece about her is her confidence plays a lot into it, and she is grown. She's been more confident. She is, just gone out there and competed. She's a senior. She's like, I'm just gonna leave it all out here and go have some fun, and she's taken that mindset and everything, and I'm very, very proud of her. Hannah Cole's gotten to throw some. She was hurt last year, and so seeing her throw was really awesome. She got to throw for the first time, like wearing UAB jersey in the fall, and I think our whole team was like crying. They were so excited. She's a stud, and you just obviously want people that have gone through injuries to have success and get to see them compete and do that. And so that one meant a lot to me is watching our kids celebrate someone else. And that was a really neat moment. So yeah. AJ hasn't really thrown for us this fall, so she's not really throwing. She's just hitting.
Just hitting, okay. How do you envision this pitching staff? Do you see it by committee? Because I know at times you did that last year. Similar approach.
Yeah, it'll definitely be by committee and just kind of matchup based. Kind of figuring out, who's going to set up who well and who can kind of come in and do those things. And I think that's the part that's continuing to be creative and figure out who complements each other and how can we piggyback off people and just being more prepared in some situations and them trusting themselves and being prepared. I think last year sometimes a lot of it was just there were situations that was just new to them, and ultimately that they got nervous and didn't compete well. That's what it comes down to. They even said that it's like they've gotten better at handling the hard and knowing that like even if their best pitch isn't working, how can they still go compete? And that's things this fall. We took away their best pitch for a couple times in scrimmages and said to go compete. And just kind of making them go figure it out. At the end of the day, you can not have your best pitch and still be a competitor on the mound and find a way to win. And so that was kind of fun to see too. Was it ideal? No, but I mean, God forbid it ever happens in a game, you still can go out there and compete. And so just seeing them go compete in that sense.
That's an interesting segue I was going to bring up because I remember last year watching your team, and you were right there, like USF in Tampa. You took a game from them, beat them up pretty good, could have won that series.
Yeah, the next game got walked off.
Right. FAU, that if regular, USF ends up winning the conference tournament title. FAU, regular season champs, you host them. You could have won. I think you had them in a lead in the 7th inning in 2 of the 3 games, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't close it out. They're the regular season champions. I only bring that up because they were the top 2 teams in the league, and you were right there with them. Is that something do you talk to your players about that you're not? Hey, you can compete with everybody. Even the best teams in the conference there, because even though you didn't get the result you wanted, you were right there with them.
Well, I won't. After both of the anyone that's something our kids actually said themselves. Like they can see that. So that's obviously the awareness piece. I mean, I think last year we played 21 one-run ball games. And so just knowing that you were right there, knowing you have a chance, I think that sometimes one-run ball games frustrate me more than a blowout, because you're so close and it comes down to coaching and knowing you're not going to quit and knowing you're not going to, our kids know they can find a way to win. And so knowing that, say for instance, you have it won, but yet you still have 3 outs to get. So how are you still going to be focused and know that it's a 0-0 ball game, or trust that with your lead you still can compete and get it done. And so just putting them in different situations to be prepared for that, and know that it doesn't have to go perfect. Like say that you're up and the tying run gets on, like you still can win those games and you still can compete and you don't have to play different and not change something. I think that was something like last year, like, oh, like we have to do something different because of this. And it's like, no, we go out there and play our game. Like we go play our style ball and we play like we play like our best every game of like whatever UAB softball is playing at that moment. And then we're gonna give ourselves a chance. Like we're not worried about what the other team's gonna do to us. Like we're worried about what we're gonna do and how we're gonna handle what's thrown at us. Like Perk said, like people punch us, like we're gonna punch back. Like how are you gonna continue to get off the mat?
It sounds like last year was a learning curve, and as painful as some of those losses were, the one-run losses, you kind of had to go through that process, and you hope it pays off this year. Is that accurate
Sure.
description?
Yes, for sure, for sure. And knowing that, like, obviously, knowing that those things did matter to him was important because, like, if they were okay with it, that would have been not good for the program that I was trying to continue to build because I hate to lose. I hate losing more than I like winning. So, having to endure that, hopefully, it means that going forward doesn't mean it's going to all of a sudden just work out for you. And that's something I've really talked to our kids a lot about is like, just because you do the hard thing or just because you do the right thing and or you get more strong or mentally tougher, like it doesn't mean it's all going to go perfect for you, but it puts you in position to handle it better. And so that's the thing is like just that sometimes everyone's like, well, I did this, why didn't this happen? And it's like it doesn't it's like bamboo. It doesn't mean just because you did it right, it's gonna just shoot up. Like you just never know. You got to keep doing it right. Keep putting hay in the barn, people say, and then you'll eventually use it and it eventually comes up like bamboo. You keep watering it, you can't see any growth, and then all of a sudden it can shoot up, 3 foot overnight. But you have to keep doing it despite seeing it, and that's hard. I think a lot of times with social media and everything, everyone wants instant gratification, and that isn't ideal in sports and athletics.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's a good perspective on that. Of course, the league was the fifth best conference in the sport. I know that's not a surprise to you because obviously you've been in the league now for a few years as a coach. Was it any different being the head coach and coaching in the American as a head coach versus being an assistant? Any difference at all, or was it pretty much, yeah, this is what I expected?
Yeah, no, I mean, other than I still haven't gone to ECU or Tulsa. That was the only thing I've never done. Because I mean, I'd gone. I must say, kind of weird, but a lot of places we went last year, we had gone the year before when I was at FAU.
Huh.
But that was just kind of like random. But no, I mean it's very similar. I don't think it's any different. I mean, you still prepare for the same teams and all of that. And you still kind of expect like you already knew the conference was like I knew from FAU that the conference was competitive. So it's just more of the sense of now you're just in a different
Right. Scouting's the same. Scouting, right? At the end of the
scouting,
day.
scouting, yeah.
Yeah. You're going to Boca this year. You hosted FAU last year. You go to Boca. You know Boca pretty well. I guess my first question: where are you all going to? Do you have? Clearly, you're going to be the person that's going to knows the area. Where are you going to go eat when to take the team to eat there? That's my first question.
We're gonna go to Wales Rib, my favorite place.
Ooh, okay. Will it be different? Will it be unique for you? Do you think, have you thought about that? You had some great memories there in that area with a championship and everything. Is that going to be unique for you? You hosted him last year, so I know that was unique in itself, but will it be even more unique because you go back to Boca where I'm sure some memories will pop up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it'll be, it's not like pretty neat time of my life. Got to experience Boca. I mean, it's a beautiful place, great people and everything. And so getting to go back there will be a lot of fun and seeing, familiar faces and all the things. And, our kids are excited just because it's beautiful down there. So kind of getting to show them around. But I mean, honestly, I'm excited for a few of the good places to eat.
Ooh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Obviously seeing the beach, like, and you just knowing that that's something I like when I was at FAU, like you have the beach there, but like it's not like you just all of a sudden go a lot, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah.
like growing up, when I'd go to the beach, you'd have to like go for the whole day because you're driving. Oh, I'm going down there for the family vacation. So like when you live by the beach, you can just kind of go pop in for here and there for a little bit of time. But just knowing it's there is kind of like the peace of mind that's neat. So definitely, I think that 2 years ago when they went, they didn't see the beach. So I'll definitely make sure they get to at least see it before we start.
So are you type, because I know some coaches are like this, like on a road trip, you do want to have them show the area, show the city, especially if there's something that there's a learning experience there.
I mean, we'll try and do things. We didn't when we went to San Antonio, we were gonna go to the Riverwalk, but it was like really packed because it was a not homecoming, what's it called? Prom. And so like it was really packed down there. So I was gonna get the bus tickets, but it just ended up like being gonna be bad. So we went to the mall, like Hannah mentioned. But yeah, I mean, like obviously they get to see things, try and show them that. You know, at the end of the day, like it's an experience, and you only do it for 4 years of your life. So while you have that opportunity, trying to show it. We didn't go to the beach last year when we went to USF only because it was not close, and based on the timing of our flights we just didn't have the time. But if we have the time, obviously I will try to do those things. It's not like we're just going to go sit in our room in the hotel. I mean, I like to get out and go for runs and walks and stuff, so like them getting to see it and enjoy the weather. I don't love them just sitting in the hotel doing nothing. The more that you lay around, the more sleepy you get. So like just getting out and kind of experiencing it.
Keep him active. Keep him active.
Yeah.
Keep him thought process. No, it makes sense. Of course, conference tournament will be in Greenville this upcoming year. So I don't know what ideas you might have. I remember one of the times I went to cover a conference tournament in Greenville, I ended up going to a Durham Bulls game. So
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I've never even gone to their stadium. I've never been to Greenville, so it'll be something new. We play there in our regular season. We play there during conference season, and then obviously the tournament. So we'll get to experience it twice.
that's true. You get to be familiar with the area. That'll be
Yeah.
pretty good there. All right, you mentioned food. You've spent now enough time in Birmingham, and I asked your players this. Favorite food places in Birmingham for you?
Soho Social is probably my go-to favorite. It's a place in Homewood. That and like Taco Mama. Taco Mama was my favorite whenever I lived in Troy and would come to Birmingham. It's a Mexican place. That's definitely a fan fave. We used to have one on campus and it closed, like not on campus but really close to campus, and it closed. But there's still multiple close. I would say my favorite. I know you asked you asked Hannah and then barbecue. My favorite barbecue is Saul's Barbecue.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really close, and they have really good banana pudding. But yeah, Soho Social is definitely one of my favorites.
Okay. All right. Next time I'm there, I'm gonna have to check your recommendations there. I just remember Dreamland because that's
It's
where
really close. Yeah, and I mean
yeah.
I've gone to the original one there. So like
Yeah.
sometimes when you go to the original one, like the one that's close to, it's not the exact same all the other places.
Right.
But it is definitely Dreamland is good, but my favorite would definitely be Saul's.
So
Saul's kind of has like different hours. I think they close at like 3 p.m. So it's not like they could go after a game. Like it's like
really?
I think that I could be wrong, but it's like an 11 to 3 or 10 to 3 type thing.
Yeah.
And so it's not ideal when the girls are going to get food. Like Dreamland's open later and it's close, so that makes a little more sense.
I do remember that. Wow, I didn't know about that. Unique hours. That's fascinating there.
Yeah.
Uh What's it been like getting to know the head coaches? And I know in talking to all the head coaches, a big talking point has been about turning this league to being from a 2-bid league to a 3 to 4 bid league. I know some of the coaches thought it could have been a 3-bid league. The scheduling has been a formula. Everybody's scheduling tough. Kind of what's that been like getting to know the head coaches and kind of exchanging those ideas?
Yeah, obviously just talking about on the recruiting trail and all the things and just getting their advice and what they think. But ultimately, the main thing from this is everyone's trying to push the sport forward, and they're trying to use our conference to do that. And the more that everyone needs to better themselves and better us, like then the conference is going to keep getting better and better. And so just trying to position yourself to win and also be challenged. I think that's something also that comes into play is you have a hard schedule, but you don't win. It doesn't really matter for RPI. So you also have to use it to your advantage of like, how can you set yourself up to have a chance to be competitive enough to win those games and play against competition that's going to still help your team be prepared when conference starts. Because like everyone has known, our conference is good. It's competitive. You can't take a day off. Everyone's going to compete and give it their all.
How do you describe your non-conference schedule?
Yeah, it's definitely competitive. I mean, we play. I mean, in Birmingham, you have ability to get to multiple really challenging tournament. Like, people close. Like, I mean, we have Ole Miss and Tennessee coming to our tournament. We have, obviously, we have a home and a home with Alabama, home and a home with Mississippi State. The Auburns, the Ole Misses. So, like, we're going to be challenged. We go to Georgia Tech. We play a little bit of everyone, but we're going to be challenged and battle tested by the time conference comes, just so that we're prepared for whatever's thrown at us and know we can do hard things.
How big of a benefit is it, A, the location you're at, but B, the facilities you have? I've been to campus. I've been to the stadium. Coach Townsend helped build that, the Hall of Famer herself, Marla Townsend there. But I've been there for a couple conference tournaments and UAB series, and that helps attract opponents like you just described. That's not a deal, but that's got to be a big bonus and a big help where you can just get on a bus and get quality games on the road, or teams will get on a bus and come to you.
Yeah, that was something definitely that it helps with that. I mean, when I was at Troy, it was very similar too. And then when I was at FAU, like I guess just realizing how south it was, I didn't really think about that unless like people were down there playing in tournaments and needing midweeks. But it definitely helps in the midweek realm of getting people because there's a lot of places within 2.5 hours. Which, like I said, that helps with the scheduling piece and all that. So, for instance, you're not having to play maybe 6 games on a weekend. You could play 5 in a midweek, depending on who's close. So it definitely, comes into play. Our facility, getting quality competition. We have an amazing field crew that does a phenomenal job with our field. And so, just getting people, it's easier to get people here. It's just more of figuring out what works best for everyone's schedule. I think that's the thing is, okay, is a midweek smart this week, et cetera, because we're both scheduling for both of us. Like both teams have to agree on it. But yeah, it's definitely something we have opportunities, and if we have opportunities, we have a chance to compete against them.
What's it like now setting up a tournament at home, being the host as a head coach?
Just try to schedule the best you can.
Okay, okay.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, thankfully, like I said, we have an amazing field crew, so they knock out the things in between. But yeah, I mean, I know they talked to Megan Dowdy about possibly us in Stanford doing like a joint one too to continue to get even more teams in. But just making sure that you can get all the games you need in and kind of I think the main thing is figuring out if we're going to play on Thursday or not, just because we have multiple teams. Like we have SIU come in, Mercer, Missouri State, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. And like Ole Miss and Tennessee can't play each other. So, that's the piece that kind of makes it a little challenging. But still, just getting people in. And then obviously, I know that those will be games that a lot of people in the area want to come watch because they're big names. And so, just getting people to see our facility and then obviously get to see our team compete is the fun part about that.
Well, in that region you're in, they love softball. There's a passion there and a following. Have you picked up on that in your being since
Oh,
you've
for
been back?
sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there's been like a couple teams wanting like we've done like some youth team camp stuff, and the youth piece of it's important, and our kids love kids, and so them giving back and them doing lessons and getting the kids to come around. That's been the fun part is like kids kids do love softball around here, and they do want to come around, and even at all of our games, afterwards little kids are wanting their signature and all that. And so that's really fun to kind of see that continue to grow. And with the Bolts facility close, that does help obviously because a lot of the kids like play in that. And then the younger teams, like every game we had last year, we had um like a team come on the field for the national anthem. And so for every single home game, we had at least one team, if not two. And so like I said, that was really fun for our kids to get to engage with those younger players, encourage them, and then a lot of them were like, "Oh, I like what would I give to be that age again?" Like I'm actually getting to do that. So it's really neat. And like I said, I enjoy watching them and engage with the younger fan and encourage them and even just play catch with them. Like that's what it's all about.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, again, the community involved. That's awesome. There, I'll let you go on this. Before you know it, season will be here. You'll get to play some games. What are some things you're looking forward to finding out about this group? Maybe some questions you have, or some things you're looking forward to finding some answers out that you think will help define the season.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think figuring out which players all work the best together and how we can get our offense moving, depending on obviously who's playing where position and all that. And then obviously just seeing how our pitching staff handles, challenges that are thrown to them. Excited, like I said, to see because they have more experience under the belt, how they handle that. But the main thing I said is just figuring out the best ones that play together and how they how they handle whatever's thrown at them. Because we do have nine seniors and we have 8 juniors, so we are very upperclassmen heavy. And so knowing that they have been at this level, they have competed for multiple years here, so it's no surprise. I think, like I said, off of that, we have 8 freshmen and sophomore. So we are very, well, I said we are older, which does not mean honestly anything. Experience, I think, obviously is what's important, but knowing that they've been there and they've done that, and using all those experiences to our advantage, and kind of learning and growing from that, and being vulnerable of like, okay, this is honestly for some of them, this is your last year. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna trust your preparation and go out there and be your best self, which will help our program and our team be their best self. And so just kind of seeing that kind of play out will be something, like I said, I'll be interested to see. Like every year I've coached is I always enjoy looking at the first lineup you write and the last lineup you write and seeing, what changed, did something happen and somebody get injured, whatever it may be, like how did it change throughout the year? And then so seeing how your team can handle that.
That is UAB head coach Taylor Smartt joining us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball, powered by 643. Coach, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. This is going to be our annual get together, which I enjoy. I know you've been busy, been doing obviously a lot of interview, not interviews, but also speaking engagements. That's what I really meant to say. Speaking engagements and stuff. Thanks for taking the time from your busy schedule to talk to us on In the Circle and D1 Softball. Hope to talk soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all that you do for our sport. We appreciate it.